Hello, hi, and welcome back to my new series, Beyond Barriers with me, Ella V. As you guys know, this is a series that I'm bringing you in order to help celebrate and share with you all the amazing people who've had such a positive impact on the disabled sporting community. I've had some great guests so far, and I've got some great ones coming up for you, so I hope you're excited. I am. And as you can see, guys, I am in a bit of a change of scenery today. That's because I've moved back to my flat. So I'll be doing all my interviews from here from now onwards, so I hope you enjoy them. I've got a really exciting guest lined up for you today. His name is Martin McElhatton. Now, Martin is a huge name in the disabled sporting world, and he knows everyone and everyone knows him. I am so thankful to Martin because he actually played a huge instrumental role in getting me involved in disability sport when I was younger. So I'm so thankful to him because I wouldn't be where I am now. Not only has Martin represented Great Britain at the 1984 Paralympic Games in Stoke Mandeville for wheelchair basketball, but he is also the chief executive of the disabled sporting charity WheelPower, which is a charity that is very close to my heart and I've done a lot of work with, especially recently. So I'm really excited that Martin has actually managed to find some time to let me interview him today. I know he's a very busy man, so I'm so thankful. And I really hope you enjoy this interview. Martin is a huge name in the disabled sporting world and is hugely respected. He actually also received an OBE from the New Year's Honours List in 2020 this year. So I'm really happy for him because it couldn't be more deserved by anyone. So without further ado, I'll let Martin introduce himself and tell you his story. And I hope you enjoy this interview. Over to Martin.
Fire away.
Okay, great. So I always start with the very beginning with my guests, and it's just like, what were you like as a child? Obviously, you weren't in a chair when you were younger, but what were you like as a child? Were you sporty? Did you have any brothers and sisters growing up? What were you like in your childhood days?
Oh, my childhood. Well, I'm one of five. I'm the middle child of five. I've got an older brother, an older sister, and two younger sisters. I played sport at school, and I wasn't sort of first picked for the football team or the rugby team or any team particularly, but I was, really loved sport, and we used to play a lot of football over the park at weekends and certainly during the summer holidays. And then when I left school, I went to London to work for British Airways as an engineering apprentice, and I joined the rugby team there. And I used to do some running just to keep fit and exercise. So rugby sort of really kind of was my hobby and I got to play in the British Airways teams. I was quite quick, so I kind of, and then obviously ended up in a chair after an accident.
So then, your life changed dramatically and you had an accident, didn't you? What age were you when you had your accident?
Yeah, I was 18 when I had my accident. I was on a bicycle going to work, and a lorry reversed out of a road onto the bit that I was on, and went over me and I got paralysed from the waist down. So I was just 18 and ended up at Stoke Mandeville in the spinal unit there and doing my rehab, and that's really where I got into wheelchair sports.
I mean, obviously I've grown up in Stoke Mandeville too, but what was Stoke Mandeville like then? I mean, I'm sure it's changed a lot. Or has it? That's the thing, maybe it hasn't.
Yeah, it was very different then. I mean, the spinal unit was in the original wartime wards that were kind of huts created by Dr. Gutman, and the whole point was you came in and you were the first bed in the ward, and then there were about 30 beds in the ward, and as you kind of went through your rehab, you moved down the ward, and by the time you got to the other end of the ward, it was time to go home.
I didn't know that. That's so cool.
So
like a hierarchy, you get going.
Yeah, and your job really was, as you went past everybody, you were going past all the new people, so you had to talk to them when you were going for physio or occupational therapy or sport during your rehab, and then when you come back you have to pass them again. So I think it was a way of creating that kind of interaction between the patients that had been there a while doing their rehabs, and then the newer patients could see people in their chairs and, start to see how life might be, and pass on kind of little tips and skills, and sometimes just have a chat, I think, to people that were lying in bed. Because in those days, if you had a spinal injury, sometimes they kept you in bed for 12 weeks before they kind of got you up and in your chair. So so it was a long time to be laying in bed, and especially because they just turned you to prevent pressure sores. It was, I think, mind-numbingly boring for patients in the olden days.
I bet. No. And did that help your recovery, do you think, talking to other people who were maybe further down the ladder than you? Or did it help, especially being told not when you're not going to walk again? Did it help that phase?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when I was obviously told that kind of you're not going to walk again, it's a moment that I don't think anyone ever forgets. And certainly, you kind of hit the rock bottom there. But then there is the kind of new life thing of what's going to happen after your injury. And I mean, it was the chairs were very different then. They were very heavy and kind of a bit medical looking, NHS type chairs. So they weren't very sporty, and they weren't designed to look sleek and cool as the chairs are now. So you have to overcome that kind of trauma of looking different and people maybe staring at you. So having others to chat to is a great way of, I think, coming to terms with that new situation that you're in after a spinal injury.
Yeah, and I can imagine in that Stoke Mandeville Hospital bubble, the attitudes were very different to what society was outside at the time. So was it harder when you came out then to face society and the attitudes that were in society then?
Yeah, and I mean, for me, it was the early 80s. So, places weren't as accessible. All the things that we take for granted now, like, ramps into trains and step-free access and, dropped curbs and all of that. So your wheelchair skills had to be pretty good because you had to get up curbs and, get around if you wanted to be out and about. But yeah, I mean, I remember going into London on the train, and the only bit of the train that was accessible was the guards van where they put the post in. Because they had a ramp, so you would have to go into the guards van, if you wanted to go on the train. So so very different to how things are today.
Yeah, but also it's almost quite reassuring that things have changed and have progressed.
Oh, hugely. I think I mean, access is so much better now, and I know people still complain about access, but I think back to how it used to be, and I'm sure even before me had it worse than I did. So but it's all
and
about.
I'm sure you had to fall out your chair a few times in order to learn a lesson how to do things.
Yeah, we've all had those moments where you just hit a little curb or you hit a stone or something, and then you get flipped, and it's always a bit embarrassing. But the good thing is people always help, and I think that's been one of the things that I've always been pleased is not being afraid to ask for help if you need it, and then also being respectful of people who ask if you need help, but actually you don't need help, but just tell them politely, you don't need help.
Yeah.
I'm okay, bags. Yeah.
Exactly. I had a lady ask me once. I was at Tesco's and she was like, "Do you need help getting into your car?" And I was like, "Oh, that's really lovely, but I'm okay, thank you." And then she watched me, and then she was like, "Oh, you can get in quicker than I can." And so she let me do it.
Definitely. No, and
I was like, well, when it's raining, you do get quicker.
Yes, and also it's like you're doing it thousands of times in your life. It's just something that becomes automatic, like so much of our lives after being in a wheelchair. You kind of just what is normal for us. People are still a bit surprised at how able people are in a chair. I think they're sort of perhaps their idea of someone in a wheelchair is perhaps an older person or someone who struggles. whereas most people who use a chair every day, like we do, get very good at it.
Yeah, it's practice makes perfect, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So going back to that St Mandeville Hospital bubble, I know that the history of Ludwig Gutmann, it says that he really encouraged sport as a way of getting up and going, getting fit again, and physically and mentally, he really encouraged it as rehabilitation. But I didn't know, was that the same attitude when you arrived? Were you encouraged to do sport?
It was on your program. You didn't have a choice, really. It was a case of,
I imagine.
here is your program from literally 9 o'clock in the morning until sort of 5 o'clock in the evening. And it was physiotherapy, occupational therapy, and, swimming, hydrotherapy, sports. I mean, we used to go down and play table tennis almost every day, archery, wheelchair basketball, bit of everything really in the kind of small archery room that they had in the old spinal unit. And then once you were kind of a bit more confident, you would push down to the stadium for an afternoon of sport once a week. And usually then we would try things like wheelchair basketball and the sports that maybe you couldn't do so much in the unit itself. But yeah.
And I'm guessing that's where you then discovered wheelchair basketball, was it?
Yeah, I tried it there, and then I went home, and as you do, trying to get on with rebuilding your life. I kind of didn't follow up and join a team straight away, and it was probably 12 months before I joined a club, and that was a team in Leighton Buzzard to start with, and then at Stoke Mandeville, and then later on in Milton Keynes.
Yeah, you came back to my club.
Well, I think it's my club because I'm one of the founders of that. So I think technically speaking, but yes, no, ACES was the club we founded in 1984, and I'm loyal to that club. That's my. If you cut me open, I would be ACES sort of through and through.
Me too, so we can be aces together.
Exactly.
So then what made you want to progress in wheelchair basketball and maybe take it on to that elite level? Was elite sport hard at that stage?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing was to get a chair, and there were very few sports wheelchairs in those days. We started playing in our hospital chairs and kind of cobbled them together and cut the backs down and tried to make them as sporty as we could.
They didn't have anti-tips either, did they?
Oh no anti-tips. No. They were big and heavy as well, so you were pretty strong. But then I got a sports wheelchair, and that started to make a difference. And then everyone started to get basketball chairs, and then I just loved it. I mean, it was just a great sport. You're with your mates doing, the training, and then there were 3 or 4 of us that decided, we wanted to really get good, get fit. So we did a lot of pushing, a lot of training, a lot of shooting practice, a lot of drills, skills, and one thing led to another, and I got picked for an under-23 Great Britain team to Holland, and then trip to Italy. And then on the back of that, I got picked for the 1984 Paralympics, which were meant to be in America, but ended up at Stoke Mandeville.
Yeah, and which is really exciting. That must have been like almost a full circle for you, and ended up back at Stoke Mandeville for Paralympics. You've had that whole journey, and you've ended up back there.
Yeah, it was a bit weird. I mean, we were due to go to a place called Champaign, Illinois. It was like a university complex for the Paralympics, but that
bit different to Stoke Mandeville.
Yeah, it was funny. We ended up playing in the sports hall of the old sports centre, not the new one, and the GB team slept in the primary school, which is about 200 yards away from the stadium. So we were sleeping in classrooms, not exactly an Olympic village as such, but
not what you imagine.
Great memories and great friendships, and like everyone, if you get to take part in a Paralympics or an international event, it's fantastic to represent your country and something you can always be proud of.
Absolutely. And yeah, you're still friends with a lot of those guys now, aren't you? Who were in the team.
Yeah, and so many people that I've met through wheelchair sport. I mean, I got to see wheelchair tennis at the '84 games, and then that made me want to go out and play tennis in the summer. So I started playing wheelchair tennis after that and got involved in that as a player, and then helping to grow that around the world, and been involved in wheelchair tennis for many years. And so that was something really special as well. And you never know what's going to happen, when you just go along to something and try it, and and then one door leads to another, and then you're off around the world doing something. It's a really interesting life that wheelchair sport gives you.
Definitely, and it opens so many doors. Like you say, I would have had so many opportunities if it wasn't for sport. So I'm very thankful. So, I mean, was the work of Ludwig Gutmann still quite apparent at those Paralympics, or was it just progressing more and more?
Well, Dr. Gutmann died in 1980, so there were games in Arnhem in Holland in 1980, and then there was a bit of a crisis, obviously, in '84 when the games had to be organised at Stoke Mandeville quite short notice by the British Paraplegic Sports Society, which is WheelPower as it is now.
But it was still determined that they would go ahead, wouldn't it? Wasn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And the organisers at the time wouldn't have let the games go, but there was certainly a kind of a worry around the future of the games, because how would they bring them back together in the same country, in the same city as the Olympics? And so luckily that then happened in Seoul in 1988. And then that's the kind of start of the modern Paralympics that we see today, where the games are in parallel.
Yeah, which is great because they've just grown and grown, I think, because of that. So I'm glad they kept it like that.
No, I mean, it's fantastic now. If you think that the Paralympics are the third biggest event in the world after the Olympics and the World Cup, it just shows you how far one man's dream and vision has actually become a reality. And thousands of athletes with all sorts of different impairments now take part in the Paralympics every couple of years, winter and summer.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you mentioned my next link, which is quite useful. You mentioned that you then got involved with wheelchair tennis, and actually that's how I first met you, wasn't it? I think
it was. You came along to a wheelchair tennis camp that I was coaching on, and I think you were hitting a few balls and a bit of encouragement, and I know that you enjoyed tennis and basketball and have been involved in lots of sport. But it's a great sport. And what I loved about the wheelchair tennis was that in the basketball you had the team, and you kind of played together and relied on your teammates. In the tennis, it was you if you were playing singles, you could only rely on yourself. And then obviously I loved playing the doubles as well, which was great fun because you could get up to the net a bit if you timed it right.
Yeah, and it's so
a few volleys,
well.
So
yeah, I think that's the opposite of me. I think I wasn't very good at the singles side on my own. I wasn't very good mentally on my own, so I think I preferred the team aspect. But some people like different sports, don't they, because of that, which is how it works, really. So
yeah, and I think it's brilliant that there are so many different sports that everyone can play and find something that they enjoy. I mean, I liked ball sports because I like that competition of you're against someone. It's a game as well as a sport, and whereas other people like to do 100 meters against the clock or just a personal best type thing. That never really interested me, those sorts of and certainly not doing a marathon. That's far too far to push. Although you probably do push quite a way in a match,
Yeah, I'd say you cover quite a lot of mileage on court, either tennis or basketball, to be fair.
Definitely.
So yeah, I think you had a playing career in wheelchair tennis, didn't you?
Yeah, I wasn't highly ranked, but I got involved trying to promote the sport because I was sort of one of the first players, so there weren't very many people playing. So in order to get more people playing, I kind of went around doing some demos and then got other people playing, and obviously inevitably people get better than you. But I traveled a bit internationally and had an international ranking, but then I got involved on the committees, and I was chair of wheelchair tennis in Britain for a long time, and then president of the International Wheelchair Tennis for a long time as well. So helped to grow it from originally just a few countries to being played in nearly 100 countries around the world. So, you know, it's lovely to see.
Now have grown, and be at Wimbledon and be at the US Open and have the likes of Alfie Hewitt and Gordon Reed and all that playing. You must feel really proud. You should anyway, if you don't.
Yeah, I am very proud. And I think one of the proudest moments for me was going to the opening ceremony of London 2012 and seeing all the wheelchair tennis players coming in at the front of the GB team. Because Peter Norfolk was my friend, but someone who I'd seen start I helped him when he started. And then lots of the other players who were behind him were people that had come to camps when they were younger. So yeah, it was that sort of sense of pride that they were getting their moment to shine their talent at Paralympic Games in London, but they were leading the whole team in for that, home games, which was amazing.
Yeah, I bet. And do you still play a bit now? Do you still pick up a
racket?
No,
I haven't played for a while. It's something that I kind of put on the back burner with the work at WheelPower and how busy I am. But something I kind of plan to return to when I have time in the future.
It's a good summer sport because you can just play it in the hot weather when it's nice. Don't do the whole snow weather in the end. Just do it when it's sunny.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that you can play with other people in wheelchairs, but you can also play with people on their feet, and because of the 2 bounce rule, you get 2 bounces in the chair and they get 1 bounce, so it works really well. And if the level of tennis is similar, you can have a great game of tennis with someone, whether they're in a chair or not, and that's really social. And so it's got that kind of extra dimension to it, apart from obviously the amazing guys who are playing in the Grand Slams and the Paralympics at that level. I mean, I watch in amazement now how fast they are, how they get around the court, the touch, the skills. Yeah,
skill and speed.
Yeah, it's incredible to see,
especially on grass.
Yeah, I have to say I only played on grass once, and that was years ago, and the chairs were terrible in those days. And we just thought there's no way that we could ever get it in Wimbledon. But now, obviously, with the fitness and the technology of the chairs and everything, it's great to see that it can be played on grass and to a very high level.
And do you still have any role in helping develop wheelchair tennis, or have you stopped that side of it completely?
I did stop, but then last year I got asked to chair a wheelchair tennis advisory group. So for the Lawn Tennis Association. So I'm doing that for a little while just to kind of help grow the number of people playing again. I think I'm a big fan, really. So I've never stopped, and I kind of run a Facebook group for wheelchair tennis people who love the sport, and just try and promote it and share what's going on, opportunities for people to play, whether it's tournaments or camps or development opportunities, so that hopefully when people can get back out and start playing again, we want to get more people playing. I mean, it's something I've always wanted, because I've had such joy out of playing. It's a great sport for people to play, and they'll enjoy it too. So the more people we can get to try it, the better.
Well, thank you, because you got me to try it, so that was good. And I really enjoyed it. So perfect.
definitely.
So you mentioned earlier about WheelPower a little bit. We briefed over it. We'll go back to it now. My dad always knows you as Mr. WheelPower. he says you are WheelPower, and well, you're the chief executive. So do you want to tell us a little bit more about WheelPower and how you got involved?
Well, Mr. Wheelpass, a big name to live up to, but I'll try.
Exactly. You do.
No, well, when I was finishing my wheelchair basketball international career, a lady called Jean Stone, who I know you know, who sadly passed away last year, she was working at WheelPower, and she asked me to volunteer. So I came in and helped with a newsletter to send out to all the different sports and people and clubs and things, and got bits about what was going on. And then I got a job doing public relations part-time. So I started doing all sorts of things around press releases and so on. Got more involved in fundraising, and one thing led to another. So 23 years ago, I think it is now, I got asked to be the chief executive, and I thought it was only going to be for 6 months. And, so there you go. And then we kind of got a big project underway, which was the redevelopment of the sports centre, which had originally started and been opened in 1969, but had been sort of run down quite a lot over the years, and needed a lot of investment. So we raised £10.2 million, and a lot of that was from the lottery, which was fantastic, through Sports England. And so we redeveloped the sports centre, made the basketball courts full size, added some tennis courts thanks to some other funding, and did a new track and a hotel on site. And so lots of new developments that kind of put the sports centre and Stoke Mandeville Stadium back to where it should be. But yeah, and then obviously getting involved in raising money to help people play sport, whether they've had a spinal injury or they're a young person with a disability. So WheelPower puts on sports camps and events like our interspinal unit games, so that people can try different sports and then get the opportunity to decide which sports they might want to follow up on. And we work closely with the governing bodies to do that, so that people can have the best coaching and get introduced to sport in the right way. And that leads on to people being involved in sport and deciding, whether they want to do it seriously and go maybe to the Paralympics in the future, or like most people really play sport for, health and well-being and fitness and, the social side of sport, which is really important, and, the pleasure it gives you in terms of your own personal enjoyment of being with others and, making friends and so on.
Yeah, well, I just feel so lucky because I feel like I've been one of your legacies that you've brought through. Because I attended the WheelPower Junior Games when I was little, and that gave me an opportunity to try out lots of different sports and helped me find wheelchair basketball, which is perfect. But also found wheelchair tennis as well, which is good. And had a go at racing, which I knew wasn't going to be very good for me because I wasn't very good at it. But yeah, I think, but even from those games, even now, I still remember there was a whole group of us, and we're all still really good friends now. And some have progressed to be elite sportsmen, and some just play it for fun socially, like you just said. So I think, I just couldn't rave about the charity more.
No, well, I'm very proud of what we do, but I'm proud of the team that we've got that help people to, have those opportunities, because without the good coaches, all the volunteers, all the people that are involved in running the facilities at Stoke Mandeville, it just wouldn't be possible to deliver what we do. And I think, it's so important that people get the chance to try sport, and, and also for, I think, the families of the children that we help, it's just as important for them to see, their disabled child doing something really positive and independent, and, something that's going to lead to them feeling more confident about themselves. And, for me, that's what sport does. It gives people confidence. It gives them, the opportunity to gain skills that are kind of invisible. The things that get passed on between friends. About how to do things. I think it's all of those things that I'm really proud that we create the environment that makes that possible, and then the rest is up to the people. And then you can't take any credit for that. That's people putting in their own sweat and heart and soul into their own sport, and then you get what you put in. So
but without that foundation they wouldn't get to that level, so it's really nice that foundation is offered.
Yeah, and it's trusted. People come and they feel it's a lovely environment. It's very welcoming. It doesn't matter, what age you are, what you look like. Everybody's welcome, and everybody feels part of WheelPower if they come to one of our events. And I'm that's what I want, is people to go away and speak highly of the charity, maybe tell someone else, so that they can come and join the gang, as it were, and then they'll get that experience. And the more people we can help, either at Stoke Mandeville or around the country, that's what I want to do going forward. And that's where you've helped us during this lockdown, because we haven't been able to deliver a lot of our events, and so doing the kind of online resources that we've done and the fitness classes and things, I think has been invaluable to people who've been stuck in their own homes.
Yeah, well, it's been invaluable to me too. It's kept me fit and active as well, so I'm very thankful. It's been nice to have something to do and a focus, so I've really enjoyed it.
No, it's been brilliant, and it's been interesting to see how it's resonated with people, whether it's your exercise classes, the wheelchair yoga that we've been doing, or the resistance bands that give people that sort of stretching and flexibility, and so just everything seems to have connected with people. And what I really like is that we're getting such positive feedback from people that they want to continue to do this. And particularly that it's people from all over the country who maybe didn't know WheelPower before, because they don't live within an hour or 2 hours of Stoke Mandeville, and now they know who we are, and we can help them in the future and connect them with sport. If they want to get interested in one of the more traditional wheelchair sports, we can do that as well.
The power of social media, that's what you can get.
Definitely.
So also in the last, because you must actually pinch yourself every day when you go to work, that you go to St Mandeville with so much history, but I know recently you wanted to show that off more, and you've helped establish the National Paralympic Heritage Centre, or Trust as well, but you've also set up a centre as well, which shows off the history of the Paralympics, doesn't it? So how did you get involved? Whose idea was that? Was that yours? Or...
Well, I can't take the credit for all of it, but I'll take some of the credit. For a long time I've been interested in celebrating the heritage of Stoke Mandeville, and I think 2012 presented us with that opportunity to really make that idea a reality. And what we were asked to do was to host the Paralympic flame lighting ceremony for 2012 and the start of the torch relay. So before that, in the build up to that, we were starting to use some of our archive materials and some of the old photos and film and memorabilia to tell a story of the wonderful people that had gone before in the movement, where it all started, whether it was Dr. Goodman at the very beginning, or some of the athletes, those pioneering athletes in those early days of Paralympics, whether it was in Rome in 1960 or Tokyo in 1964. And so when the games were over, we wanted to make sure there was a legacy about the heritage, and so we had long discussions about how we would make that happen. And eventually we managed to form the Heritage Trust with a mission to celebrate and showcase all of this incredible story of the Paralympic movement and its origins at Stoke Mandeville. So I'm very proud to be a trustee of the Heritage Trust, and one of the goals that we set out to do was to have a heritage centre at the birthplace so that we could show visitors when they came a little glimpse of that story, and really excite them about looking into it more. And so that was a dream come true when the Heritage Centre was opened, and to see the son, Dennis Gutman, and Eva Loeffler, who's the daughter of Gutman, and their great-grandchildren, so his great-grandchildren there. Loads of family of Gutman still connected with the place and the people. And that's what it's all about. It's about the stuff, as we like to call it, all the memorabilia stuff, like we've got old wheelchairs, or we've got kit from the past, we've got things from the opening ceremony in London 2012. So it's a wonderful thing to showcase. And just recently, obviously with lockdown, the trust have been able to do some virtual tours. So even if people can't get to Stoke Mandeville Stadium to see the Heritage Centre, they can still see it online, which is fantastic.
I think it's the perfect way to help spread and share that story that is not very well known by quite a lot of people, and it should be more well known. So it's a perfect way, and what better place to have it than the birthplace? So I think it really shows the Paralympics in a great light, and also how far it's come.
Oh, definitely. And I think that's the thing. It's, we've also got those kind of iconic moments in Paralympic sport, and everyone will have their favourite moment from their favourite sport. So whether it's Tanni Gray-Thompson, winning a gold medal in Barcelona, or Chris Holmes winning, in the swimming pool, or, might be the wheelchair basketball guys winning a silver medal in Atlanta, or whatever your favourite moment is. Everyone's got a memory of a Paralympic sport, within our community, and to share those, I think with more people, just shows how far the movement has come.
No, it's so exciting, and I think if you ever haven't seen it, then get to Stoke Mandeville and definitely see it, because it's very, very amazing centre. I was looking at even one of the old wheelchairs today, and they've changed a lot, so it's quite surprising.
No, definitely, yes.
So, I mean, very well deservedly, in the beginning of this year, it was announced that you were awarded an OBE in the New Year's Honours List.
Yeah.
I can give you a round of applause.
Thank you.
Trust me, when my family found out, we were all so excited for you and couldn't think of anyone who deserved it more. So you got this OBE in honour of your service to sport. How did that feel?
It was weird in a really, really good way. It was kind of like you get this letter, and it's about 6 weeks before New Year's. So but you can't tell anybody.
Oh my goodness, how did you do that?
So then you have to wait until it's formally announced, and then you can tell people. So that was an interesting few weeks where I was keeping a really exciting secret, but so then once it's announced, it was lovely, and I was able to celebrate and go to Buckingham Palace to have my honour just before lockdown in the beginning of March.
Goodness.
And it was a very special day, and my dad came with me, and my partner Nancy, and my sister, and then we had a family gathering afterwards, and then get together with friends. So lots to celebrate and lots to thank people for, because you never get these things just because you've done everything yourself. It's because you're part of a team, and whether that's the WheelPower team, the team at Stoke Mandeville, whether it's the wheelchair tennis people that I've worked with nationally or internationally, or whether it's ACES and all the people involved in the club. All these things are part of your journey to get an OBE. And so, I'm just really thankful for all the people that supported me and worked with me and helped me, encouraged me, and were always positive about, what I was trying to do and what I was trying to do for disabled people to live, better lives as a result of playing sport or being involved in sport.
Well, I think you're extremely humble because you have done a lot. And yeah, you have helped a lot of people, including me. So I think it's thoroughly deserved and you should enjoy it and be very happy with it.
No, I am really, really happy. And I'm also, enjoying it. And I just want to get to a point where you can, use it to help others. Just because you get it doesn't mean you're finished. As someone said, it's not a full stop. It's just a pause to celebrate and then go on and do more. Exactly.
Well, I'm just going to call you Martin OBE from now on. Screw you a second. You're just going to be Martin OBE. Perfect. And finally, I won't keep you too much longer, I promise. Last question. But it's a question that I ask all my guests. And it might relate more to when you were back in sports. But I feel like everyone needs that downtime, whether it's taking a break from sport or taking a break from work. So what is your guilty pleasure when you have that downtime? It can be food, it can be a TV program, it can be anything.
Well, mine would have to be music, and it's soul music in particular. Growing up, I was a soul boy, and I used to go to the soul clubs and dance the night away. And for my birthday, I got what we would call a record player, what young people now call a turntable. and I've got got my old records, and during lockdown I've been playing my old records that I haven't been able to play for years on my new turntable, and that's been my kind of chill out, go out in the sun and just listen to some good old music, have a little boogie. Albeit either by myself or in the garden or with Nancy, and just having a whale of a time. So yeah, I love
music's perfect for that. I love that. It's a great choice. Well, thank you very much. And yeah, what a great choice, and what a great lot of stories. I think I've learned a lot that I haven't ever heard before. So it's really nice to speak to you and actually have the time to ask these questions.
Well, so thank you very much. And I have to say, if all of my legacies are people like you, then I'm a very happy man.
It's all your hard work, I promise you.
Oh no, I might have just lit the flame. You've done all the rest. So congratulations on all you're doing, and success.